Welcome to the Hancock Public Website User Training. My name is Phil Hamer, Web Services Specialist at Allen Hancock College. You can contact me at phamer@hancockcollege.edu after you're done with this training if you need any help or have any further questions. Once you've completed this training, you'll be given access to Omni CMS, where you can make changes to your department's web pages. Chances are these pages already exist on the Hancock Public website. If you need help setting up a new site or a new page, you can contact me anytime and I can help you set that up. After you've completed this training, you'll be notified by email once you have access to the pages you requested, but for now you can follow along on the training site at www.hancockcollege.edu/training. The best browser to use for Omni CMS is currently Firefox. Logging into the website is really easy. First, browse to the page you want to make changes to. So I'm going to continue on this training site. Once you're on that page, scroll to the bottom right-hand corner of the page and click on Last Modified. This link pulls up the Omni CMS login screen. You can try this now on a training site. Go to www.hancockcollege.edu/training and log in with the username training and the password lowercase TRAIN number 4. Go ahead and pause and make sure that you can log into the training site before moving on with the training. If not, go ahead and contact me. You can play around with the things that you learn in this training on this test site. When you have access to your own website, however, the login information will be your same username and password that you currently use to log into My Hancock. This is what your screen will look like when you log in. Once you see these green main content buttons, you know that you're ready to make changes. Making basic changes. Once you're successfully logged into Omni CMS, you're ready to go in and start making some edits. Each area of the page that you can edit will have a green edit button that says main content with a pencil icon. When you click on the green button, it takes you to the WYSIWYG editor in that section. WYSIWYG is an acronym that means what you see is what you get. The WYSIWYG works very similar to word processing software that you're already used to and uses many of the same tools. This means that I can just type my changes directly into the editor. I can delete content, copy and paste, and do all the things that I'm already doing in Microsoft Word or other programs. I'm going to go through each of the tools in the WYSIWYG toolbar just so we know what they all mean. The first one is this floppy disk icon, and it is save and exit. So when you click on that, it saves the work that you've done, and it gives you a preview of what it's going to look like once it's live. And then to go back to the editor, you just click on main content again. Similarly, the save button over here, this blue big one on the right, does the exact same thing. Here you can exit without saving, which would be the same as closing down your browser. And then you can restore your last draft. These next 4 icons here are for cutting, copying, and pasting content. So the scissors is cut, this is copy, this is paste, and this is paste as plain text. You would use paste as plain text if you were copying something from another document which had a lot of formatting in it that you wanted to clear, and this would just paste just the plain text. I usually don't use these. I usually use Control X for cutting, Control C for copying, and then Control V for pasting. So Control C or Command if you're on a Mac, and then Command or Control V to paste. These next 2 icons here are for undo and redo. And for these, I like to also use my control commands. I'll use Control Z to undo and then Control Y to redo. The next tool is one that you should always use. It's the spell check. So make it a habit before you save any of your content to click on the spell check and go through it. You'll be surprised what you miss. And then when you click on spell check, it'll highlight the misspelled word in red, and then you'll just right click on that and then select the correct word if it shows up. Sometimes you want to clear the formatting of certain text, especially if you've copied it from another location and it's holding on to some strange formatting. Maybe it's a different color, a different size, or just doesn't look the same as the rest of the text on the page. So if that's the case, you would just highlight the text and then click on this clear formatting tool. It'll set it to the default paragraph text to match the rest of the website. These tools here are very similar to other programs you use. It's just bold and then italics. You can use these to add emphasis to your text. Notice that what's missing is an underline tool, and this is because the only text that should ever be underlined on a website is hyperlinks, like this. Use bold sparingly. The more bold you have on the page or the more italics you have on the page, the less effective it is. So just be very selective what you choose to add emphasis to. There are some formatting tools for adding bullets and numbers and indentations. Use these as necessary to line up your text and make it easy for students to follow. This tool with the quotation mark on it is for a pull-out quote. Use this tool sparingly as well when you want to draw attention to text or pull out an inspirational quote. I would recommend using this no more than one time per page. You would just highlight the text that you want to pull out and then click on this tool and it reformats it to add emphasis and to make it stick out. To change it back, you would just highlight the same text and it toggles back. These three right here are familiar tools for lining up your text. On the Hancock website, the text should normally be left justified. There may be a reason to center or right align, but generally everything on the Hancock website is left aligned. Before we talk about the rest of the tools, I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about hyperlinking. You can hyperlink both text and photos. To hyperlink a photo, you would click on the photo and then you'd click on this hyperlink tool. Then you can either copy and paste the URL into this field here, or you click on this browse button. When you click on the browse button, you can select one of the pages from your directory to link this to. You can also type the text that you want to hyperlink and then highlight that text. Then you can click on this insert edit link, or you can also right click straight onto the highlighted text and then click on link. Then click on that browse button and then select the page that you want that to hyperlink to. If you're linking to another page within your site, you should always use this browse button to find the link. It will identify the link by a number called a dependency tag that keeps track of this hyperlink and keeps it from getting broken in the future. The text to display field should include your highlighted text. If you want to make any changes to this text, you can do that here. The title blank is there if you want to include a tooltip with your hyperlink. This isn't usually necessary because the text you use should be the biggest indicator of where the link is going. But if you're hyperlinking a photo or something that needs a little bit more explanation, you can use this. We'll talk about this a little bit later in the ADA compliance section, but you should never hyperlink the text "click here" or "here" when you add a hyperlink, because the hyperlink text should always indicate where the link is going to go to. The open link in field determines whether the link will open in the same window or in a different tab. So if you're linking within the Allen Hancock College public website, leave this at current window. If you're linking to an outside website, to a PDF, then you would change this to new window. Because I'm linking within the website right now, I'm going to leave that at current window. This makes it so that your users don't lose track of where they are if they're on the Hancock website and they click on an external link or a PDF. You'll then click Save, and your hyperlink should be formatted in a blue font color and underlined. You can click Save and test your hyperlink in action. The Insert Edit Link tool is also used to upload and hyperlink PDFs. On the Hancock site, whenever we link to a document, it should always be converted to a PDF first. This includes Word documents, PowerPoint presentations, Excel spreadsheets, etc. Before linking to these kind of documents, first make sure they're saved on your computer as a PDF, and then you can upload and link to them. So I'm first going to type the name of the link, and then highlight it and right-click on it, or I could also select this chain tool at the top. So I'll select link, and then I'll click on the Browse button. Each site should have a Documents folder, and this is where you can upload your PDFs. You should never upload the PDF at the top level because it can cause disorganization in your files. So all of your PDFs will be stored in this Documents folder. If the document is already in the folder, you can select it. Otherwise, you would click Upload to put the document in there. You can drag your documents straight into this window to upload them, or you can click on Add. You can select multiple documents, or you can just select one at a time. Then you'll click Open, and then Start Upload. Now that the document is in this folder, I'll make sure that it's selected, and then click Insert. And then because this is a PDF, I want to make sure that Open Link In field is set to New Window. And that's so if somebody closes the PDF, they don't lose their place on the website. Then go ahead and save your changes and click Save. Now when you save your changes, unfortunately you won't be able to preview the PDF until the page publishes. So if I click on this link right here, it gives me an error message. So you kind of just have to trust that it will be there once it publishes to the server. So once you get a notification in your email that this page has published, make sure you check that hyperlink to make sure that it's correct. You'll also notice that when you hyperlink to a PDF, you get a little Adobe icon in front of it to let users know that when they click on this link, it won't be a normal link, it will be a PDF link. And this is done automatically. Going back to the toolbar, the next tool next to the hyperlink tool is the Remove Link tool. If you don't want the text to be hyperlinked anymore, you just click anywhere within the text and then click on this tool, and then the link will be gone. If you wanted an email address to also show up as a hyperlink, you would just simply type the email address, and here's mine, and then click the spacebar, and it will automatically hyperlink that email address to the mail application that's installed on that computer. The next tool is the anchor link. If you want to link to another place on the same website, first you would add the anchor to the place you want to link to. So I'll go ahead and add it down here. Then you click on the anchor link. You give it a name, and it's just all lowercase, something that's easy to find. Go ahead and click on Save, and then it puts a little anchor down there, which you could then type some text, highlight it, and then use your hyperlink tool. And then now we have this anchor option, and I can click on Learn More, and it will put hashtag Learn More in the URL here. So I'll click on Save, and now this would link to the bottom of the page. This is generally used for really, really long pages with lots of content where you might have a table of contents at the beginning of the page. So more like a frequently asked questions page or a directory page, something that has a lot of content, so it's not very commonly used. This next tool allows you to pick your text style. The general text style for the website is called paragraph. This is the standard font size, color, etc. for paragraph text. So anything we wanted to make follow that format, you would just highlight it and then set it to be paragraph. You can also select heading 2 to break out your content into easy to read sections. Notice that we don't have a heading 1, and that's because the page already has a heading 1 in the title. Under heading 2, you can break out your content into subsections using heading 3. So I'll change that back and then select heading 3. These other headings that you see here, heading 4, 5, and 6, they should not be used. They can add some formatting errors and confuse web crawlers and screen readers if they're not used properly. I think a system using just heading 1, 2, 3 simplifies it and makes it more accessible. The next tool we have here is the image tool. Images can be tricky, so I usually help people out with images on their site and make sure that they're properly sized. If you'd like to add an image to your site, just let me know. Otherwise, I can give you a separate training for images. One thing I will say about images is that they do have to be pre-approved by public affairs to be on the site, and they should also be sized appropriately so that they don't slow down the website. Images also have to have an alternative description in them to make sure that they're ADA compliant. The next tool is the line tool, and it just adds a line to your page. So you just click on the tool, and then you have a line. Easy. This is just another way to break up content on your page as needed, and it should also be used sparingly. And to get rid of the line, you would just backspace. The next two tools are for snippets and assets. These tools have very specific functions, and they also have separate trainings for them if you need to use them. So it's kind of on a case-by-case basis. Most people don't need to use them. This next tool that looks like a grid is the table tool. If you have a table on your page, you can insert or remove columns and rows. And this works very similar to table tools on other programs like Microsoft Word. Here's where you can select your amount of cells, and then you have a new set of tools that are just for the table, for adding rows, adding columns, adding content. Tables can be a little tricky on this program, so if you have any questions about tables or have any issues with them, go ahead and let me know. This last tool is just for convenience. It just breaks out the WYSIWYG editing area into a larger section. So if you're using a smaller screen or you're having trouble editing the page without seeing the content as a whole, this just helps you see the big picture. And this just toggles back and forth. Feel free to experiment and play around with all of these tools to become more familiar with what they do and how they react. I wanted to bring your attention to some other options outside of the WYSIWYG editor in Omni CMS. The first is this little folder on the left-hand side. When you click on the folder, it shows you all of the pages that are in your site. This allows you to go from page to page smoothly. As you click on each page, you'll then have the option to click on the main content button on each of those pages. It's always a good idea to read through all of the pages in your site regularly to make sure that they're up to date. Another important link is this Back to Pages link. This is similar to the folder tool, however it takes you to your site directory and gives you more options with your pages. Another important link is the Properties link, and I always suggest that before you click on Properties, you make sure that the page is checked out. To know that a page is checked out, the light bulb on the right will be yellow. So if I have the light bulb checked out and I click on Properties, this is where I can change the title and metadata and also the page heading. So if I wanted to change the page heading, I would do that here. The other link is Versions. When you click on Versions, it shows you all of the times that this page has been published, and you can revert back to any of these versions. So if I click on the ellipsis on any of these saved versions, I can always revert to that version. So it gives you the chance to preview the page before you revert it. You can also compare an old version of the site to the current version, and you can see all the changes that have taken place on this page since then. Once you've made all the changes that you want to, and you're ready for the changes to go live, you've caught all the misspellings and everything looks good, the first thing you'll do is click on Save and preview your changes one more time. Go ahead and click the green Submit button in the right. When you click on Submit, it opens an email to the web approver. Checks are in place to maintain quality of the website, so usually the approver will look over the page for any glaring errors or problems and give it a quick read through before publishing. When I approve a page, I'll usually fix anything I see on the spot, but your content might be declined. If it is declined, it will usually have an explanation telling you why the content was declined and what you can do to fix it. There's a subject line and a space to put an email message. In the subject line, type several words telling your approver what change you made to the page. If you have any other questions or comments or something just isn't working right, you can go ahead and include that in the message part of the email. In addition, if you wanted to schedule your publish to go live on a certain date and time, please make sure to make that clear in the subject line. Then go ahead and click Submit. Once you submit your page to be published, you won't be able to make any more changes to this page until it's been published and is live on the website. However, you can save as many times as you want to before you click submit. Your page will usually be published within an hour or so, but it could take as much as a day or two, so make sure you plan accordingly and try to keep urgent changes to the website at a minimum and plan ahead. Sometimes urgent changes can't be avoided, so if you have a very important change that needs to go live right away, it's best to contact the approver beforehand to let them know in advance that it will need to be published right away. When the approver receives your page submission, this is what it looks like. There's a green publish button and a red decline button. So the approver will look at the changes briefly, read through them. They also have the option to edit and fix this page, and then they can publish it. Once they publish it, you should get an email telling you that it has been published. And then when that happens, you should be able to log back into your page and make additional changes if needed. So far, this training has been about the tools in Omni CMS, but we also need to talk a little bit about the content. It's very important to make sure that our voice, grammar, and style are consistent across the website. As a person who manages public-facing web content, it's your responsibility to be familiar with the college guidelines. Read and familiarize yourself with the AHC Stylebook and Publication Guidelines, which are found on the portal. If you go to the portal and click on the hamburger menu on the left, and then go to Public Affairs and Communications, you can find the Stylebook under Guidelines and Forms. You can also get there by going to the website bit.ly/styleahc. The style book has all the grammatical, spelling, and usage guidelines that should be used for public-facing written content on the website. Make sure that the content is written at a basic reading level. Our site is visited by a variety of users with different levels of literacy and education, so we want to make sure that it's easy and clear to read for everyone. Our website visitors shouldn't need a college education to read the site, so instead of using a word like modality, we could use the word method. Instead of using a word like asynchronous, we could use not at the same time. Just make it easy and clear in as few words as possible. Also, make sure to use headings and bullets to make it easy to follow and scan the website. You have mere seconds before you lose people's attention on these web pages, so make sure that you can scan the important information very quickly. When going through your pages, make sure you're checking them for the following. Is the information on the page correct and relevant? Have the office hours been updated? Have outdated events and PDFs from previous semesters been removed or updated? Check all the hyperlinks on the website and make sure that they work correctly and that they're linking to the right place. Is the contact information and personnel listed on your pages up to date? Could you remove some text and wordiness to make it easier for students and users to follow? On a website, less is always more. Because time of day and dates are used so much on websites, I want to take a little bit of time to talk about these. We never use the word o'clock, so we would never write 8 o'clock. Instead, we would use numerals like 8 a.m. versus 8 o'clock. Use lowercase a.m. and p.m., not capital AM, AM, PM, etc. Use a colon to separate hours from minutes. For example, 3:30 p.m. And don't use redundant double O's. For example, you would write 4 p.m., not 4:00 p.m. For dates, abbreviate a month when it's accompanied by a day. For example, if you were writing he was born on September 24th, 1980, you would abbreviate September. If you were writing out September without a date afterward, you would write it out completely. We never use ordinals like 1st, 2nd, 22nd, 3rd, etc. So you would never write August 21st, you would write August 21, 2021. And always include the year. This makes it easier for you to update dates and ensures that people don't show up for last year's events. When lining up and formatting the text on your web pages, there's a lot of built-in formatting. So when you hit enter, it'll do a double space. So to override that double space and to do a single space, you would hold down Shift and then hit enter or return. Don't ever use the spacebar to line up text because everybody's computer lines things up differently. So instead, use the built-in formatting, bullets, and numbers that are provided in the WYSIWYG. We want our website to follow certain guidelines for ADA compliance to make the user experience equal for everyone, especially hearing and visually impaired people. And because Allen Hancock College is a state college, it's actually a requirement to receive our normal funding. So there are some extra steps we need to take to make sure that the user experience is as equal for everyone as it can be. Heading structures should be in order. Like I said earlier, every page has only one heading 1, the page title, followed by heading 2 and heading 3 below heading 2. Keeping them in this order keeps the page well organized for screen readers for the visually impaired and also helps web crawlers like Google find the information more easily. If you add a video to your page, it needs to be captioned with the exact text, grammar, and sound effects that are included in the video. If you need help with captioning a video, you can contact the Learning Assistance program or you can contact me. Usually you'll need to have a copy of the script used in the video to add captions to it. The auto captioning feature in YouTube is not sufficient. However, YouTube does make it easy to add captions, so if you have the script, we can easily add those captions to the video. You have to be careful with the colors that you use on a website to make sure that the contrast is good enough for visually impaired or colorblind people. So it's important to just use the standard fonts and styles that are included in the WYSIWYG and not add any colored text. It is against ADA compliance rules to put an image on the website with words embedded on the image because screen readers can't detect those words in the image. Sometimes 1 or 2 words can be used, but they must be described word for word in the alternate description. It's always going to be best to convey information with text rather than images with text. And here's an example of an image that we would not be able to use on the website because it has text embedded in the image. All hyperlinks need to indicate where they're going to go. So we should never hyperlink words like click here or link. This is not okay. You see it a lot in websites, but it's a pretty old style and not something that we want to participate in. The only thing that should ever be underlined on a web page are hyperlinks. If we wanted to add emphasis, we should use bold, italics, capital letters, but never underlining. All images on the website need to have a good description. So to change the description of an image, we would go to the picture tool in our WYSIWYG, and then here is the alternate description. So this says Hancock Administrative Buildings. I like to think about how would you describe this photo to a blind person briefly. This is an okay description, but maybe I should add Hancock Administration Buildings with leaves and branches in the foreground. So now this image here has a good alternate description for the visually impaired. Thank you for participating in this training. If you need to access this training in the future, you can get to it by going to www.hancockcollege.edu/support. On the site, there's also some refreshers and tutorials that give you a quick rundown on how to do certain tasks. Also, remember you can contact me at any time if you have any questions or need any help.